Yes, I'm Mr.LukwagoSwalihLiveShow. Actually, I've got some questions to respond to in respect to Museveni's mercenary force deployment to Gaza as part of international stabilization force for Gaza. For starters, all along we've been emphasizing the issue of Museveni's capacity to maneuver within international politics by playing a mercenary role on behalf of international key players like United States of America, United Kingdom, United Nations, as well as European Union. Now, here comes the puzzle. ISF, okay, Trump and his son-in-law's initiative, okay. As a transactional leader, Trump expected to reconstruct Gaza, but without UN's backing. Now, let us have a candid explanation. Somebody asked me, why Israel refused some countries from joining ISF and mentioned them as well as expound more about Netanyahu's rejection of Board of Peace's plans, and where does this leave ISF? Okay, for starters, why Israel refused some countries from joining ISF? It is assumed that Israel has veto power over who enters. Netanyahu's cabinet approved the legal framework, but said Israel will have the authority to approve which countries can send forces. Okay? Israel's rule. Jerusalem only wants countries that have peace or normalized ties with Israel to operate in Gaza. It also doesn't want countries that are hostile, even if those countries are at peace with Israel. Okay? These are countries Israel specifically ruled out of ISF. Turkey. Israel requested its exclusion directly on grounds that Turkey supports Hamas, where senior Hamas leaders live in Istanbul and Ankara. Some have Turkish citizenship. US officials also said Israel has expressed opposition to the inclusion of troops from Turkey and Qatar, where both of them back Hamas. Okay? Qatar, same reason as Turkey, they all back Hamas. There are countries that have declined or refused themselves from joining ISF, International Stabilization Force. Okay? Jordan and Saudi Arabia reported as refusing to send troops, also listed as not providing troops. United Arab Emirates does not yet see a clear framework, and under the current circumstances will not take part, focusing on financial humanitarian support instead to Palestine. Azerbaijan, it said, does not plan to send peacekeepers unless there is a complete halt to fighting. Okay? Now, there are countries that have confirmed to join ISF. Per ISF commander Major General Jesper Jeffers, Indonesia, Morocco, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, and Albania have committed troops. Okay? Egypt and Jordan committed to train Palestinian police. Note, Indonesia is sending 8,000 soldiers. Morocco is the second largest. It is alleged, mark this, It is alleged, it is alleged that Uganda was also asked by Trump through his emissaries, but the so-called emissaries are not talked about. You know, normally, from the standard diplomatic protocols over practices, okay, such involves actually the State Department, and they pin such on their websites. It's nowhere. It's only Chiwanuka Chiriowa saying so. We've tasked their apologies actually to back it by evidence. The State Department said so. The State Department, but that information is nowhere on the State Department. But what we know, this lobbyist, this what? Lobbyist, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, a friend to Gerald Krishna, the son-in-law of Trump, and his advisor are the one who conspired to see to it that Museveni, okay, also deploys his mercenary troops, okay, to Gaza after extorting huge chunks of money, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn from Muhoozi and his father. Okay, as of now, no ISF troop deployment in Gaza because Netanyahu rejected the 15-point Board of Peace plan. Okay, Netanyahu's rejection freezed the whole deployment of ISF to Gaza. He rejected the 15-point document. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, will only carry out any withdrawal until Hamas is genuinely disarmed. What is the impact of that rejection to ISF? Deployment was blocked. Okay? The International Standard Force is supposed to deploy in areas that are not under Israeli control. But Israel says it will not withdraw until Hamas disarms. So there are no areas to hand over to ISF yet. Okay? Sequencing dispute. Trump Board of Peace plan focuses on withdraw, disarmament, all happen together or phased. Netanyahu considers disarmament first, then maybe withdraw. Until that's resolved, ISF can't move in. As by the Trump administration, okay, it estimates ISF will not be operational before May next year. Plan is to position them behind the yellow line in southern Gaza's Rafah first, then expand sector by sector. But that depends on Israel's pulling back. Okay? Now, Board of Peace response to Netanyahu's rejection of the 15-point what? Document. Nikolai Marudanov, Director General of the Board of Peace, said Israel enabling deployment is a critical part of the agreed framework for stabilizing Gaza. But Netanyahu is now negotiating with the United States of America. They have ideas, some of which are acceptable to us and some are not. Bottom line, Israel vetoed. Okay? No international stabilization force without Hamas fully disarming. The status of International Stabilization Force now stalled. It will only deploy if Netanyahu agrees to withdraw. Right now, he's using it as a leverage to get Hamas to disarm first. So, the International Stabilization Force only exists on paper with 5 confirmed countries committed. But it's stuck until the United States and Israel agree on the sequencing in the 15-point plan. So, no deployment of International Stabilization Force troops, okay, to Gaza as of now. For starters, okay, the current status of International Stabilization Force deployment, it remains approved on paper, where Israel's Security Cabinet approved the legal framework to allow ISF entry. Countries committed: Indonesia, Morocco, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, and Albania have pledged troops. It is alleged that Uganda was asked by Trump, where Uganda's parliament approved it if needed. Commander appointed is a U.S. Major General Jesper Jaffers as ISF commander. Why they are not in Gaza yet? Okay, the oral deployment is frozen because of free blockers. Netanyahu's rejection is said the IDF will not carry out any withdrawal until Hamas is genuinely disarmed. The ISF is supposed to deploy to areas Israel vacates. No withdrawal, nowhere for ISF to go. Sequencing fight with US. Trump's 15-point Board of Peace plan says withdraw disarmament happen together. First, Israel wants disarmament first. Timeline. Even US estimates say the force will not be operational before May of next year because fighting operations have to stop first in Gaza. What happened instead? Planning, where CENTCOM is still drafting the International Stabilization Force structure in Doha. Training. Egypt and Jordan agreed to train Palestinian police who would work with ISF. Location planned. First deployment was supposed to be behind the yellow line in Rafah, then expand sector by sector. Israel also has veto power, so each country's contingent needs individual Israeli approval before entering. Okay? Bottom line, ISF exists as a plan, committed countries, but 0 troops are on the ground in Gaza. Deployment only starts if when Netanyahu and Trump agree on the withdrawal versus disarmament order in the 15-point plan. Okay? Now, we are in a conundrum where some countries like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates cited political reasons as to why they refused to join the International Stabilization Force in Gaza. Get this. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates haven't officially said we refuse ISF because of this and this, but based on their public statements and diplomatic moves, these are the political reasons they gave for not joining right now. United Arab Emirates official reason given, it does not yet see a clear framework for the proposed international stability force in Gaza, and under the current circumstances will not take part. Some of the underlying political reasons: no clear mandate. United Arab Emirates wants a defined United Nations-backed framework before putting troops in. Right now, the ISF mandate is still being drafted by CENTCOM. Okay? Two-state focus. United Arab Emirates says regional stability can only be attained through the two-state solution and an independent Palestinian state. They don't want to be seen propping up an Israeli occupation. Okay? So, UAE is committed to sticking to aid instead, where it made it clear it will continue to support political efforts towards peace and remain a leading provider of humanitarian aid. Saudi Arabia. No direct ISF refusal statement, but linked to broader position. No normalization without Palestinian state. Saudi Arabia will not establish diplomatic relations with Israel without an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as capital. Joining ISF under Israel's terms would look like a normalization without that. Rejection of displacement. Saudi led a joint statement rejecting any attempts to displace Palestinians from their land and any infringement on the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people. They fear ISF could be used to facilitate moving people out. Two-state solution condition. All joint Arab statements stress peace must be based on a two-state solution. Actually, even Putin supports that two-state solution. Jordan. No direct ISF refusal, but cited in reports as refusing to send troops. Political reason. National security stability. Jordan fears an influx of Palestinians would undermine its internal stability. Jordan already hosts several million Palestinians. Okay. It also rejects displacement. Part of joint Arab statement rejecting transfer of Palestinians under any circumstances or justifications. They see any Gaza force as potentially enabling that. Okay? Economic stroke social burden. Jordan can't take more refugees. It would strain housing, jobs, health care, and cause public anger. Okay? Common thread for all three. All three were part of the same Arab joint statements that reject displacement of Palestinians in any form or under any circumstances. Demand a political horizon, serious political horizon to resolve the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and establish an independent Palestinian state. Said region is fragile. Threaten the region's stability, risk expanding the conflict. Bottom line, they are not saying we hate the ISF idea. They are saying no troops until there is a clear framework, no displacement, and real progress toward a Palestinian state. UAE said it outright. Saudi and Jordan are using the same conditions but haven't committed troops. That's why only Indonesia, Morocco, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, and Albania have committed so far. So, from a geopolitical point of view, said above, okay, this is why the International Stabilization Force, as currently structured, will likely fail without UN backing, okay, because it is framed as a Trump reconstruction vehicle instead of a real peace-keeping force. ISF has a legitimacy problem. Why UN backing matters. Right now, the ISF is a US Board of Peace initiative, not a UN mission. So Ugandans get to know why Museveni has made it difficult to back his allegation is that he was called by Trump through his emissaries. It's not on the US State Department websites. Okay? It's not anywhere. We're asking them, are those emissaries? They are on. It's only the Ugandan parliament saying so. Then Museveni task that man, lobbyist, that Kony man, who was fired from the US intelligence agencies, and who only served as Trump was actually a national security advisor for only 21 days after he was netted giving American secrets to the Russian ambassador and fired. Now he turned into a lobbyist. Okay? Extorted money from you. Work done, zero. Okay? So, Board of Peace is Trump's initiative, actually led by his son-in-law as well as his advisor, Jared Kushner, the husband to Trump's daughter, in fact, Trump. Okay? Okay. So, with UN mandate gives legal cover under Chapter 6 and 7. Okay? Troops from many countries feel protected. Hamas, PA, Arab states have to engage. Funding normally via UN assessments. Okay? With Trump Board of Peace, ISF, no international law backing. Troops look like mercenaries for Israel and US. Okay? Hamas can just reject it as partisan. Funding via US, United Arab Emirates, Saudi, and donors. Results. Without a United Nations Security Council resolution, any country that sends troops is seen as taking Israel's side in an active conflict. That's why Jordan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Turkey, Qatar all said no. No Arab state wants its soldier to be labeled as occupation of enforcers. Okay? The core political flow, who is the ISF loyal to? A real peacekeeping force answers to the UN Security Council and is neutral. The ISF answers to Israel. Israel has veto power over which countries enter and where they deploy. US Board of Peace run by Trump appointee Witkoff, Kushner, Vance, Rubio. Okay? CENTCOM, US military is drafting the mandate. From the Arab/Muslim world view, this isn't peacekeeping. This is a US-Israeli security contractor. Hamas has already said it won't disarm for a force approved by Israel. The PA won't cede authority to it. So, the ISF has no local pattern. The reconstruction for profit. Okay? Trump's Board of Peace plan ties three things together: disarm Hamas, deploy ISF, rebuild Gaza with US, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia money. Okay? So, we conclude by saying it's a Trump initiative, not even backed by the United States, because we are also suspicious that it might end up becoming a Trump foundation once he leaves power. No Congress, no law. So that's why some countries are out of the ISF Wujinga by Trump. Okay? Money angle. Reconstruction of Gaza is estimated to be 50 billion to 80 billion US dollars. Trump has put US companies, Gulf sovereign funds, and the Board of Peace at the center of contracts. The pitch to donor is, we secure it, you build it. No Palestinian state. Netanyahu and Trump both ruled out a state. So, this isn't state building. It's Gaza in comparison. A technocratic army plus ISF security, Gulf investment zones. Timing. Okay? Launched during US election cycle and Netanyahu's October election. It gives Trump I ended the war and rebuilt Gaza legacy claim. The problem, Gaza see it as management of the occupation, not liberation. Without UN/PA legitimacy, any reconstruction will be attacked as collaboration. Geopolitical dynamics that kill it. Regional rejection. Saudi, Jordan, UAE won't join because they would be blamed for enabling Israeli control without Palestinian state. That leaves Indonesia, Morocco, Kazakhstan not enough weight. Israel's terms. Israel demands disarmament first, no timeline to live. That means ISF would be stuck behind the yellow line, guarding ruins indefinitely. No country wants that mission. Hamas leverage. Hamas knows if it doesn't disarm, Israel won't withdraw. ISF won't deploy, and Trump's plan stalls. So they have zero incentive to cooperate. Iran, Lebanon link. Vance's warning to Netanyahu shows the US is using Gaza as part of the Iran deal. If that deal collapses, Gaza funding collapses too. What would make international stabilization force actually work? Geopolitically, only three things. United Nations Security Council mandate gives it neutrality, legal protection, and forces Hamas/Israel to deal with it. PA leadership. Palestinian Authority has to run civilian governance, not a US-appointed technocratic committee. Political horizon. Explicit path to Palestinian statehood. Without that, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Jordan will never put boots on the ground. Without those, the ISF becomes what we say a US security bubble to allow Gulf money to rebuild Gaza, with Trump taking credit while the political problem is frozen. Bottom line, from a realistic view, an ISF without the UN is not peacekeeping. It's occupational light. It can't get Arab troops, can't get Hamas buy-in, and can't survive the first attack. The reconstruction money might flow in a pilot zone like Rafah, but the wider ISF won't deploy unless Trump trades it for real concessions, which Netanyahu is currently blocking. That's why Vance had to threaten Netanyahu, because without US pressure, there is no ISF. And without ISF, there is no Trump reconstruction headline. I'm Mr. LukwagoSwali, your geopolitical analyst on Mr. LukwagoSwalihLiveShow. Thank you so much.